called Modern Globalization Student-Led Discussion. We're going to go to the very top. Okay. So, oh, hi. Thanks. Go ahead and have a seat. Okay. So, oh, it's frozen. Sorry, guys. All right, modern globalization, student-led discussion. I'm going to wait for you guys. Have a seat. On this, at the top, we have these guiding questions because we are going to be having a student-led discussion on Monday. So I know we have all the rest of this week. You guys are thinking, why are you telling me it's so far away? Because this week, yesterday's activity with the chips that we did, today's activity, and the ones tomorrow and on, are going to be the facts and the proof and the information that you need to help you use or explain that information in the student-led discussion. So you're going to fill out this notes sheet all week this week about the things that we've talked about. The first thing that you need to look at is yesterday's evidence. Wealth and population distribution. So yesterday we did the activity on the amount of population versus the amount of wealth, and we stacked those chips, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're supposed to be thinking about, in general, why some nations are so poor, what are the benefits and drawbacks of globalization and trading, and what types of trading, fair trade and free trade, and globalization in general. So in this box, you are going to put the answers to some questions. These right here that I'm going to make big in just a second. You are going to put the answer to those. But before we get there, I'm going to ask you to actually flip your iPad because I want you to verbalize or discuss these. These questions about yesterday, are, here, let me make them nice and big for you guys. Okay, so the first one is, let me separate, I'm sorry. Okay. The first one is, why are some nations so poor and some so wealthy? How do you think it got that way? Or, in other words, what happened in the past to make some countries less wealthy than others? Like what caused that unequal wealth that we saw yesterday with our chips? The second one was also what is happening today that keeps some countries poorer and other countries that make more money with more money. So what are we doing today that continues this unequal wealth distribution? What are people with money doing to those without money, or something around there? Those, what are they doing? And number three, what are some multinational companies doing to other countries' citizens that keeps them poorer or companies wealthier? So I'm going to ask you to talk about any of these questions up here in a circle at your table. Each person will need to speak. That means you can answer this one, somebody else can answer this one, somebody else can answer this one again with their ideas. But your job is to offer your thinking, to not say, yeah, what she said, me too. Yeah, I agree. If you are going to agree with something because that was what you were going to say anyway, then you need to rephrase that or repeat it in your words. But you may answer any of these. Okay. At your tables, circle around. I'll give you guys about 3 minutes. 2, 3, go.
Okay, who wants to start?
So thinking about all the things that you talked about with these questions at your table, I'm going to ask you to now flip your iPad and write 3 to 5 sentences. You may put them in bullet format or paragraph, whatever you prefer. 3 to 5 sentences of your ideas. Maybe maybe you have 3 sentences on this, or maybe you have 5 sentences on these two, or maybe you have 5 sentences just on this one. It's up to you. As long as you have 3 to 5 sentences or bulleted ideas, they could all be about one, or they could be about a mix of these in that box on your notes sheet. Okay. So we are on this document called Article, What is Globalization? And we are going to be looking at this to see what the benefits are and what the drawbacks are to globalization. In fact, you're going to use the chart that is down on page 3 for this article, but you're also going to use this chart for other articles coming up in this unit. So we're going to practice using it together today. So there are a few things on here. The first thing on here is a main idea of the article, and you're going to wait to put that in. Even though it's the first column, it should really be the last column. So let's skip that. And then you're going to look for drawbacks and benefits. Go up to the top. And we are actually going to skip this first part where it says globalization and history. And not because I think you shouldn't read it, but because this is all the stuff we've been talking about yesterday and the day before and last week about how globalization started. So I've already given you that information, so you may put an X on globalization in history. We've already spent several days learning that. What I really want you to see is below it. So we're going to start with communication, and we are going to read each of these small sections, and as we read, we're going to look for things that are benefits and things that are drawbacks. So you're going to do two things. First, I'm going to have you take out a green highlighter tool. Make sure your highlighter tool is green. And then make your pen or marker red. Green highlighter, pen or marker red. So your green are going to be your benefits, and your red are going to be your drawbacks. As we go through this, I will ask you to highlight or underline things that are a benefit and things that are a drawback. You might have some paragraphs where you're like, Miss, I only have green, I only have benefits. Okay. You might have some paragraphs where it's mixed benefits and drawbacks. You might have others where it's all drawbacks. As we read this aloud, I'm going to ask you to fill in the blanks, and then I'm going to give you some time to highlight and color code your benefits and drawbacks. So just follow along and be thinking about them as we read it first. When I pause, you will fill in the blanks. Modern communication has played a large role in globalization. Today, news and information zip.
Instantly.
Oh, try again. Zip.
Instantly.
Around the world on the
Internet.
People can read information about foreign countries as easily as they read about their local
News.
About 60% of the people in the world now use
Cell
phones. A farmer in Nigeria can easily talk to his cousin who moved to New York City, New. The success of global news networks like CNN has also helped
Globalization.
people all over the world can see the same
News.
24 hours a day. So I'm going to give you a minute to use your green and your red. Remember, I'm not talking about what you generally think is bad or good. I'm talking about a benefit to globalization and a drawback of globalization. Something that's good that globalization has done, something that's bad that globalization has done. So, using your color tools, 1 minute. Is it going?
nation has influenced trade, taste, and culture by exposing travelers to new ideas about food.
Okay, travelers get new ideas with food, they get new cultural things.
A farmer in Nigeria can easily talk to his cousins.
Okay, so what's the important thing there?
That people can talk around the world.
People can talk around the world. What else?
People can read information about foreign countries.
People can read information about different countries, even when they're far away from those countries. They get that news. Did anybody find anything negative in this one? This one really has a strong piece of positivity, right?
I mean, think about it. Nations is simply around the world on the internet because maybe the information is fake.
Okay, could you find a negative spin to it? Yes, you could. Does this one mostly focus on the positive?
Yeah.
Also yes. So you're going to go down to your chart now, and you will put in here any two pieces of information that you found. Most of you will put two pieces of information in benefit, right? Because probably you have two. Now, when you put that information in there, it says copy and paste quotes. A lot of you guys are asking me, can I copy and paste? Can I copy and paste? This is the time to copy and paste. So in this case, I actually want the quotes from the article the way the article wrote them. So you're going to have to go up, make sure you touched your text box, copy it by holding it down and select it, hit paste down here. So you should have two pieces of information. Probably both of yours are going to go on benefits since not really anybody has drawbacks. From what you just read. All right, for this next step. So what you have done now is, raise your hand. How many of you guys had two in benefits? Did anybody have one and one? Okay. So you have put your quote in there, but we're not done. You have to put in parentheses after each one which of the 6 G-Spice categories that falls into. Does this fall into geographic, social, political, intellectual, cultural, economic? You have a document called your G-Spice note taker for those people at home. But for those people who are here, I have given you a smaller copy of these for your desks. So you're going to choose geographic, social, political, intellectual, cultural, or economic. And these tell you, if it has to do with blank, it's geographic. If it has to do with blank, it's intellectual. If it has to do with blank, it's social. So I'd like for you guys to put in parentheses down here, which G-Spice. Some people in my last block said, mine's kind of a mix between two. Can I put like blank, comma, blank? Yeah, that's fine. Or if it's only one, you can just write one. So you have to figure out which G-Spice category those two quotes support. Use this document on your desk. I'll be around to check. All right, let's try the next one. So now that we've gone through this once, we're going to repeat this process. Go back up to your article, please. We're going to look at travel. I'm going to wait till we're all attending to see what's going on. Okay. We're going to look at travel right down here. I'm going to read it out loud. Be aware of the positives or the benefits and the drawbacks. Fill in the blanks as we go. International travel has also helped
Globalization.
each year. Millions of people move from
One.
country to another in search of.
Work.
Sometimes those migrant workers travel a short distance, like between Mexico and the United States. Sometimes they travel many thousands of miles to find better
Paying.
jobs. People do not travel just for,
Work.
of course, but also for
Tourism.
globalization has influenced taste and culture by exposing travelers to new
Ideas.
about foods, goods, and politics. So now, using your green and red, you are going to highlight the benefits and highlight the drawbacks, or highlight one and underline the other, green and red. Then, you should highlight both. If you find both. Okay? After you have highlighted, you will come to the bottom. You will choose how many quotes? How many did we do last time? Two. Okay. You will put them down here. Again, it doesn't matter to me if you have 2 drawbacks, 2 benefits, or if you have 1 of each. But you are going to put 2 down. What do you do after you paste your quotes there? That's right, Fernando. You put which category of G-Spice it is, the category heading, in parentheses. So right now I should see you choosing your quotes, putting them below. Do you see more green? Do you see more red? 1 of each, 2 and 2. Then choosing your G-Spice categories. I'm going to come around to check.
No.
All right, so you should be looking at these G-Spice categories. I want to just take a quick poll and see what kinds of information you're finding. How many of you guys found information about G-Spice that was geographic, environmental, or migration? Okay. How many of you guys found information that was social, having to do with workers' rights, or disease, or communication? What about political? How many of you guys found information about political? Okay, how many of you guys found information that was intellectual, information, or science and technology?
Wait, for all of it?
Anywhere so far. How many of you guys found cultural? And how many of you guys found economic? All right, there's a great mix in this class so far. So now we're going to go back up to our article. What is left are 3 pieces. The 3 options are popular culture, economy, and I think the last one is politics. Is that right? Okay. You will choose one of these 3 paragraphs, the popular culture paragraph, or the economy one, or the politics. You do not need to read all 3. We're just getting a little sample here. So choose one that interests you most and do the same thing. Find 2 quotes, whether they're benefits or drawbacks. You should still highlight or color code them in your document, because on Monday when we have our student-led discussion, you're going to be able to scan through quickly looking for greens or looking for reds. So don't just copy and paste. Still do the highlighting, then put your quotes below in your chart. After you have put your quotes in your chart, wherever you put them, whatever 2 you have, make sure that you put in parentheses your G-Spice category or categories. I'll give you guys about another 5 minutes to do this one. I will come around and check. All right, let's back up for a second. I want you just to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Based on what you have today on your chart, in your opinion, do you think that modern globalization is more beneficial or more detrimental to society? What you have on your chart today, thumbs up or thumbs down? More beneficial, more detrimental?
What do you mean?
What does your chart say? Probably you're not equal. Are you completely equal? Okay. Okay. So, now at your table, I'm going to ask you to just do one round, and you're going to say, at this point, I think that modern globalization is more beneficial or more detrimental because, and you're going to give evidence. Not because, like, I think blah, blah, blah. You're going to choose an evidence or examples that you wrote down. You have to be able to point to that evidence on your chart when you speak. This should take us 2 minutes or less. Begin.
Should I start? I would say that it's more.
So the next part of this, after we've got our chart, is we still have this category of main idea to fill in. So I'm going to give you some sentence starters on how to fill that in so you know what that means. Looking at the last page or 2, yours looks like mine. Scroll down to where it says main idea claim on evidence chart for globalization. Keep scrolling to the last page. Yep. No, second to last page, sorry. So what we are going to do is we are going to write some main idea sentences but your main idea sentence has to have G-Spice word or words in it. So at this point, based on what you have seen from this article, is the main idea, based on what you have seen, that it has negative impacts in blank, but positive impacts in blank, or reverse. Some of you guys might say, example 2, the negative impacts of, or geographical, the negative geographical impacts of globalization outweigh the benefits. Or you might say the positive social impacts outweigh. Or some of you say, might get specific, the positive social impacts of globalization outweigh the economic drawbacks. So you have to use one of your example sentence starters, there are 5, and decide how you can put the G-Spice terms that you wrote on your chart into these. So that means you're going to have to look at it and go, it looks like most of my positives are social. Or it looks like most of my positives are cultural. And since I have more of those than the other, I'm going to say that it has positive cultural impacts, which outweigh I only had like one drawback, and it was economic. Okay, so you're going to have to figure out how to put those in there. You have example 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 that you may fill in. Fill it in as practice on here, and then type it or write the whole thing up in the green box where it says
In your own words or
main idea. Nope, you can follow that exact format. But I want to see you practice it twice. I want to see you practice it here by filling in so you can get the words to make sure they sound right. And then once it sounds right, put it up here. Sometimes you have to change the wording. Sometimes if you look down here where it says G-Spice to your words to use, sometimes you have to say, instead of social, you have to say on society. So instead of saying on geography, you have to say geographic or geographically. Or instead of saying intellectual, you might say intellect or intellectually. So you have to sometimes change the words to make it fit. Okay, I'm going to come around and check you guys now. So we are going to switch gears. We have finished this piece. This chart and articles like this are going to come back up again in a little while. Not today, in a couple of days. So when I say, take out your article, do your green and red highlighting, put your quotes on there, write your main idea, you will know how this goes. So we're going to close this for today. And, oh, that didn't work. And then we are going to open the document that is called Dilemmas of Global Trade. Dilemmas of Global Trade. And it looks like this. Okay. Dilemmas of Global Trade.
Is Jake?
Yes.
Hi, Cristian Diego Dominguez to the office.
I just sent him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Fernanda, did you sign out? Yeah? Okay. So Dilemmas of Global Trade, Problem Solving is the document that you should have open. So we are going to talk now about free trade and fair trade. Where's the learning? It's not that way. You guys should have your bodies facing this way. Okay. Free trade and fair trade. And we're going to talk about the benefits of these, who benefits, and the drawbacks of these, because it's the next part that you're going to fill out on your chart. So free trade, remember, is trading between countries where you're not going to charge me, I'm not going to charge you, and there's no government control, which also means there might be missing laws. Like, there's no laws about where I can throw the waste from my product. I'm just going to throw it out the back. It's cheaper that way, probably. Turn it off. it's cheaper probably that way. But there's a drawback to that. Okay? iPads flipped, Ferran, and no, just YouTube. iPads flipped. Okay. Fair trade was when we trade between developed countries and under or developing countries, and we do so in a way that protects people and treats them fairly. Let me give you guys an example of fair trade. When I was in Nepal, a few years ago, there were some scarves and hats that were being woven with wool. And we kept seeing them in all of these shops, and they were so cheap. It's like a hat that somebody had woven and scarves, like $1, $2 each. Super cheap. Super, super cheap. But then we went to this other store that was a market, and it was called the Free Trade Market of Nepal, something, whatever. And in there, they had also things that were woven, scarves and woven hats for the cold weather. But they were much more expensive. They were $5, $6, $7 each. Now, as a consumer, somebody who's buying, I have some things to think about. One, I can say, oh my gosh, those are way more expensive than the other ones. I'm going over here and buying these ones that are $1 and $2. But I don't know anything about how they're made, or where they're made, or who's making them. If I go to a market that is fair trade, by that definition of fair trade, I mean that someone in a developing country like Nepal is being paid equal wages or equal money instead of being taken advantage of, like, I know you don't have anything, I'm only going to pay you 10 cents to make this, but you're desperate, so I'll pay you anyway, and then I'll sell it for $1 or $2, and I'll make like 90 cents or $1 on each one. Versus fair trade, where they're more expensive because, why? What do you think? They pay their workers well. In addition to that, we know if it's labeled or certified fair trade, in order to get the certification fair trade, the stamp of it, the approval, you have to have certain things. You have to show that you pay your workers well, and you have to show that you abide by certain rules for the environment, even if your country doesn't have those laws. So that means they're required to prove and show how they dispose of their waste, how they dye. Do they dump the dyes out and let the chemicals run somewhere? How do they dispose of them? Are the dyes they use chemicalized, or do they have natural ingredients in them? Do they have some sort of a waste system if they produce smoke or other pollutants? So in order to get that fair trade stamp, which this one place had, they had to prove all those things. Does it cost money to make sure you're not doing those things that are bad for the environment? Yeah, is it easier to throw it out the back or to just waste it and use chemicals? Yeah, it's easier and cheaper. So as a consumer or as a company buying these, I have to say, I'm going and buying it for myself. I only want one or two. I can afford to buy the fair trade ones because I have enough money and I want to support these people with jobs. I don't want to support these people who are being taken advantage of. Yes, they're getting money, but it's really a bad system. Or I say maybe as a buyer of a big company, I'm going over here to buy 3,000 scarves and necklaces and hats, and I'm going to take them back and sell them in my store. I don't have the money, or I'm not going to spend the money on these ones. They're really expensive because I'm only going to sell them for $10. If I buy it for $7, I'm only going to make $3. If I buy these for $1 or $2, I can make $7, $8, $9 profit, right? So as a consumer or a buyer, you have decisions to make. Yes and yes.
If it's like in a random store or like a little place, probably the products that are made by the same person that sells them, right?
If it's in a kiosk and the person is making their own things right there or selling right there, yes. If it's like one person who's selling a bunch of stuff that's imported or that they bought from somewhere else and traded, you don't know. You can say, like, are these handmade? Yeah, they're handmade. By you? By who? You know, you have to kind of ask those questions to be an informed consumer. a lot of times it's of its own small kiosk. You can assume that that person, or ask that person, if they're handmade by that person. So I'm going in all of these stores in Nepal, and I'm like, I know that the store owner's not like making these thousands of scarves all by themselves, like all these people, right? I can tell there's a bunch of things in here that are like bought from China or somewhere that are plastic little souvenirs that say like Nepal, you know, and I can tell they're not quite handmade, but I'm not sure about the scarves and the hats. So I didn't buy first, and then I saw this, and then I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. These are made somewhere in a cheap village, probably in Nepal or a surrounding country, for super, super, super cheap because they pay them very, very, very low. And these are made by people who are given opportunity. You have to decide what's more important to you. I know my values. I'm asking you to have your values.
How do you know if a place is fair trade?
You could ask if they have fair trade certification.
And like,
They would usually have on their wall or on their website something that proves that they are.
and for example,
Like a certificate that says this company is.
For example, if I buy this and this is fair trade, animal cruelty has like the little like bunny.
Yeah, if it doesn't say fair trade, it's probably not. Meaning, does it have the potential to be made in a place where people have been taken advantage of? Sure. Yeah. Okay. So that's what you're thinking about as a consumer. Today we're going to read these dilemmas of global trade, and I'm going to ask you to think about these sides. Which side would you be on? Because I said I know my values. I know I prefer blank over blank. What do you value? Or in what cases do you value those things? So let's look at number one. We're going to do this together. We won't do all of them together. I don't think we have time, but we're going to do this one together. Number one, when I read, please fill in the blanks. For many years, advertising has encouraged, let me back up. Let me break for a second. Before I explain, do you guys know what baby formula is?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just make sure that you know about the two things discussed in here. Some of you guys seem to know it. Baby formula is the powdered milk. It has certain nutrients put in it that babies specifically need. The other side of that is breast milk that comes from a woman. And there are benefits to using both of these. The ideas are that breast milk has some nutrients in it and things that formula cannot provide. However, formula is used when women cannot produce enough milk, some women can't for whatever reason, or a child is adopted and the birth mother is not there to have milk, okay? Because you produce milk only when you've had a child. So, what we have here is a company, Gerber, who makes baby products including formula. And we have a country, Guatemala, who's talking about the benefits of breast milk. So listen as we go with those things in your mind. For many years, advertising has encouraged women in poor countries to buy infant
formula,
Many poor women do not have access to clean
water,
or they can't read the instructions on the can because it's not in their
language,
or because they can't read at
all,
Many can't afford to buy sufficient quantities of formula, so they end up
stretching
it by diluting it. This means that they add water to it to make it last,
longer,
so it's not as strong with nutrients. They kind of water it down. Babies become malnourished and often
die.
The government of Guatemala passed a law that the packaging of food products could not feature pictures of healthy babies because this could
Discourage
women from.
breastfeeding.
This law is based on guidelines issued by the World Health Organization and UNICEF. Gerber, this company, a large company which produces baby food and products, says that this is an
Unfair.
trade practice because it means that they can't use their trademark products in.
Guatemala.
They say this violates the principles of free trade. Do you agree with Gerber's position? So Guatemala says, if you have people are using their products because it looks like, oh, if I use this, my baby's going to be healthy. When in actuality, in Guatemala, people are using it incorrectly because they can't afford it, using it incorrectly because they can't read the instructions, using it incorrectly because they don't actually have water to add to it that's healthy. They're giving dirty water, right? So they're saying because of this, you cannot sell products with pictures of happy babies that are healthy looking on it, because doing so makes people here want to buy them, and actually it's not healthier for them compared to breast milk in this situation. That's Guatemala's idea. So let's look down at this chart. Free trade would be if Guatemala allowed Gerber to sell their products in Guatemala, even though it might discourage some women from breastfeeding. Non-free trade would be if Guatemala has the right to tell Gerber that they cannot sell their products in Guatemala because their label makes women want to use formula instead of breastfeeding. So you have to decide. I agree with free trade and Gerber. This is what should happen. Or I agree with I disagree with free trade. I am on Guatemala's side. This is what should happen. I want you to circle which one you believe. You either believe this one or you believe this one. Circle which one you believe. So this is a point where you have to choose your own values. What do you think is more important, the free trade or not free trade in this case? You have to choose your values. Circle the side that you feel you are on. Hold on a second, guys. Keep going, but don't talk about it yet. You have a baby, and they drink a woman's breast or boob, which provides milk, which is how babies typically are fed by mothers when they're first born.
He's right there.
I think the word
Okay, fine. Hi, soul.
amamantar, right? Or amantar, right?
Put the face. Which one did you guys pick?
Okay. So circle the side that you feel you believe.
I picked this one just because it said they can't always afford it or they can't read the label right, which leads to more death.
Okay.
We're trying to avoid death.
So this is a personal opinion. Let's take a little class poll. How many of you guys want this side? Really? How many of you guys want this side? My other class was opposite. Okay. So you circle whichever one you feel like is more important for this case. Now, I'm going to ask you to do both sides. It doesn't matter which one you circle. So, let's think about this. What are the benefits of free trade? What are the benefits if this happens, regardless of what side you are on? Edu.
And the products are free trade so that the workers are getting fair money.
Free trade or fair trade?
Oh, it's free trade, then I don't.
Free trade.
It's good for the company and the economy.
Okay, so who makes money?
The
Company, in this case, Gerber, makes money. And they provide jobs. Don't a lot of people work at big multinational companies? What else?
people still have the product.
Okay, the product is still available. Because might there be some people who are using it correctly and who want to use this? Okay. Let's talk about here. Who is protected in this situation? So,
The baby and the woman not that much, but they're protected like from having their baby too.
from being malnourished in this case?
Yeah.
Okay, so babies are protected so they are not malnourished. Who else is the government of Guatemala trying to protect by saying this? Yeah. Because you don't have enough money to know how to use it, or you don't have enough education to know how to use it, or you don't know the language and you don't know how to use it, or you don't have enough water that's clean. We're just taking it away so that we protect you from all these things that you don't know. Okay? Is that a form of protection by not allowing it? Think about the giver, right? We take things away so that it doesn't harm you. It is a form of protection. So mothers who don't know better. Are protected. They're protected in this situation. People who don't know better or don't have the clean water to use this. So let's look down at the second example here. Once we've got these ideas, let's look at our second example. Our second example is about a place in the world named Burma, or you might have heard it called Myanmar or Myanmar. Can I erase? No. Okay, I'll wait. You might have heard it called Myanmar or Myanmar. So our second example is about that. If you don't have these, you should have them because I'm about to change it. Can I erase?
No.
Okay. So for the next one, make sure that as we write, you're writing along instead of waiting till the end, okay?
We never use a notebook in this class.
You're right, we don't. Don't use notebooks. Okay.
Can I have your paper?
All right, can I erase now?
Yeah.
Anybody say no?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's look at the second one about Burma or Myanmar. Okay. Let's read this. When I pause, you're going to fill in the blanks. Most people agree that the government of...
Burma.
I don't think we're all ready to follow along. Some people are not even looking, and some people are looking but not saying. Most people agree that the government of...
Burma.
known also as...
Myanmar.
restrains personal
Freedoms.
of people. The U.S. State Department issued a report saying that Burmese soldiers have committed serious human
Rights.
abuses, including
Killing.
and
Rape.
human rights organizations have documented a high amount of
Force.
labor. In order to protest human rights abuses there, the government of one U.S. state, Massachusetts, passed a law saying that it will not purchase major goods or services from any company that has
Investment.
in.
Burma.
So we're not going to purchase anything if you do business with Burma. Okay? Because, why? Yeah, we think this treatment is really bad, so we don't want to support it. The European Union and Japan complained that this was a violation of free
Trade.
because, I'm going to wait, we're still not focused. Franco, I'm going to have you finish reading this paragraph for us, please. You can pause and you can do my job.
Okay.
The European Union.
The European Union and Japan complained that this was a
Violation.
of free trade because what is important about a good is the product itself, not how it was produced or who produced it. The National Foreign Trade
Council.
representing 480 U.S. companies, 346 of which do business with
Burma.
Myanmar. They said that Massachusetts has no right to pick and choose whom it will buy from based on anything other than the price and the quality of goods to be provided. Period. Do you agree with the position of the National Foreign Trade Council?
Okay, so let's look down here. Free trade would be if free trade would be if Massachusetts has to buy products from people who support Burma and Myanmar, and they can't discriminate against them by refusing to buy their products. The important thing is the product, not how or where it was made. So the opposite says non-free trade. Massachusetts is allowed to not buy products from Burma, Myanmar, or companies that financially support Burma, Myanmar. Which side are you on? Circle please now. And both sides are okay. You have to decide which one you support. Which side do you agree with? Circle the side. Circle the side. Okay. You should be circling the side that you're on. Okay, let's talk about this together now. In this case, free trade, what are the benefits of free trade here? What do you think, Edu?
Burma's in Africa, right?
It is not. It is near Indonesia, I believe. Let's look at our map. We'll look at our map in a
It's
second.
really poor though, right?
It is poor.
And the US is a big buyer, so it would be good if they kept on buying so they help the economy.
Okay, so the benefits of free trade are that Burma, which is an underdeveloped country, gets economy boosted. So they get the economy boosted, right? The U.S. is a big buyer, like Edu said. They want this. Let's look at the next part. On the other side, who or what is protected in this situation? Yeah. Victims of, can we just say like,
Assault?
yeah,
Abuse.
Oh,
it's all of it,
abuse.
of abuse or assault from Burma, specifically the soldiers who are doing this. Okay. So we are not going to support it as long as this is still happening. We're not going to support it as long as this is still happening. So if you want our support, if you want our business, then this has to end. So Burma would have to do something to their infrastructure to change this. Can I erase?
Yeah.
Let's look at our third one. Our third one. This is about shrimp in the United States, and then something called TEDs, not TED Talks.
I like shrimp.
Okay, shrimp and their trade with other countries. The U.S.'s trade with other countries. So here we go. Let's read this together. Much of the
Shrimp.
whoa. Let's try again. Much of the
Shrimp.
sold in the United States is caught with
Nets.
that capture and kill endangered sea.
Turtles.
There is a simple way to avoid killing the turtles if the nets are fitted with TEDs. And this is called a turtle extractor device, which would keep turtles from entering the nets since they are no larger than the size of
Shrimp.
Okay. The United States has banned shrimp
Products.
from countries that do not use.
Nets.
On behalf of fishing interests in their countries, the governments of India,
Malaysia.
Pakistan, and
Thailand.
have complained saying that this banning is an
Unfair.
trade practice. The only thing that should is the quality of the shrimp, not
How?
it was or was not
Caught.
they say. Do you agree with the position taken by these governments? So this says fair trade. This is fair trade now. Fair trade would be if countries can discriminate on buying from India, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Thailand. Countries can discriminate on buying from these companies in these countries, even though these countries do not protect the animals or environment in their fishing practices. It matters how the shrimp was caught. So they can discriminate. They can say, I will not buy from you. I will not buy from you. The other side would be non-fair trade. Then non-fair trade, I should say since in this one. Non-fair trade means countries cannot discriminate against Malaysia, Pakistan, India, and Thailand, even though they don't protect the environment. Countries cannot discriminate. Countries can discriminate. So I agree with this one, or I agree with this one. Circle which side you were on. Guys, do me a favor. There's a typo on this. On the left-hand side, it said even though. It should say the word since.
On the thing which
Well, because even though it
underlined.
only works for this one, it doesn't make sense on this side.
Oh well.
It says even though here, and it should say
I don't know, because I think it's this one. Mine doesn't say even do. Well, then I don't know, then it's someone else. What does it say?
Countries
Oh,
can discriminate
okay.
on buying from Canada.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, you guys have it. Okay. Okay. Let's look at these. Who or what is protected or not protected in this situation? So, if countries can discriminate and they say, I don't want to buy from you, you're hurting turtles. If they can do that, and that's fair trade. Who or what is protected or not protected? Are you? Okay, turtles are protected, which in this case are endangered. These specific kinds. If I write it, you should write it. So what are the benefits on the opposite side? Countries cannot discriminate. They have to buy from here. It doesn't matter how it's caught. It only matters the quality of the shrimp. What are the benefits of this?
I have a question.
Yeah?
Do the tags like decrease the quality of the shrimp?
Like dirty?
I don't know the answer, but I would venture to say not necessarily no.
So then why is that?
And why are they arguing with that?
Why do you think?
Money.
Why do you think? What's the money? What do they have to buy? So it costs more, right? Okay, the benefits or drawbacks, let's write back. It costs more. It costs more, right?
What did you write there in the little part?
What?
What did you write in the beginning?
Drawback. A drawback of TEDs are that it costs more. So a benefit of doing it without the TED is what? It's cheaper. It's cheaper to not use the TED. So who is benefiting? Which companies? But in what countries? Which countries are benefiting?
In a way, both, because if it's cheaper to catch them, it will be cheaper to
Okay, so we're going to have to add here, poor countries get business, I'm gonna pause this here and let you guys finish writing that, or freeze it here. Then the last one that we do, you're gonna do by yourself at, well, not by yourself, sorry. Each table is gonna do it individually. Right here. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4. No. Okay. So each table is gonna do it together at their own table, not with mixed tables. Everybody should read. That means you take turns as you read by sentences, not by paragraphs. Everybody changes by sentences. Then when you get to the bottom, you guys talk about it. I'm on this side. I'm on this side. I'm on this side too. Then you answer the benefits and drawbacks at the bottom. Questions? Okay. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to do this, then we'll reconvene.
Okay, this one, like this, like this.
Okay, let's talk about what you found. So in this situation, we were talking about small farmers and companies or countries like the U.S. and European governments. So thinking about these, I'm on the side with free trade of the small farmers in developing third world, and I disagree with it. We should not think about how the food is grown, and we should not think about who grows it, whether it's machines or people. We should only be concerned about how cheap the food is for our people and how easily we can get it. So, raise your hand if you're on this side. This one, free trade. Hands down, this side. Okay, so the next question I'm asking you is, in this situation, who or what is protected? Who or what is protected?
Buyers, because then they don't have to eat those pesticides that they wouldn't.
Okay, so buyers are protected from pesticides or chemicals. Who or what else is protected?
The farmers from the world.
How so?
Because they get
Okay, so third world or small farmers get money. They're protected because they get money. Who or what else is protected?
The economy for the third world.
I think that's in here somewhere, yes. The third world small farmers, whether it's the third world as a government or individual farmers. You guys are missing a geographic issue.
Oh,
Who or what else is protected?
the environment,
From what?
transportation.
Environment doesn't get chemicals or transportation pollution. Well, not as much maybe, because they may be sold in local markets. What about this one? If you disagree with fair trade and you think doesn't matter, we should be able to get stuff only based on price and availability, what are the benefits of this? Who or what benefits? Ferran? Who or what benefits? Do you need a minute? Luisa?
people that cannot afford free pesticides.
Say that again.
People that cannot afford
Yeah. There's more food that's cheaper because not everybody can afford pesticide-free products, right? What else?
The companies
Okay. Which companies?
that make the food.
You're on the right track. There's more there, though. Which companies benefit? Who buy products because they're going to buy them at a cheaper rate, right? Which means, can they also make a product on selling their raw materials to someone else? Like if I'm buying tomatoes, could I then sell my tomatoes more to people who want to make tomato sauce? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you guys to split screen with the document that is called Modern Globalization Student-Led Discussion. Modern Globalization Student-Led Discussion. You've already had it open. Malika, can I use that one? Yeah, split screen. It's the one that you filled out at the beginning of class. Looks like this. I can't open it right here because it's too small. I can't split. The one that says evidence chart, and you filled in your paragraph at the beginning of the block. So now we're going to look at the second part of it, where it has benefits and drawbacks. Benefits and drawbacks of free trade and fair trade. So looking at this, let's do it together. What are some of the benefits of free trade? Free trade, trade between countries without government control. What are some benefits?
Everything is produced at a cheaper price.
Okay, so it's cheaper. The products are cheaper. The trade is cheaper. What else? What else when you don't have to worry about trading with governments or not all laws applying? Yeah, it's easier to do what you want, right? Easier can do what you want more. I don't really feel like worrying about my trash. I'm just going to throw it right there. Is that easier? Sure is. Okay, sure is easier. I don't want to think about who's making this for and how much they're making it for and where they are or how they are paid and where they are working. I don't want to think about all those things. I don't want to think about the taxes. It's much easier. What about drawbacks?
Bad for the environment.
Yep. Bad for environment. Because the environment can be harmed. Do you think when people or companies have the choice to spend more money but protect the environment, do you think most people spend that money or don't and do it the regular way? Right. Okay? So that's one of the things that is the argument here. It's bad for the environment. Well, they don't have to do it that way. Well, you're right, they don't. But most people are not going to choose that, unfortunately. Flo?
And also the workers are treated in poor.
Okay. So bad treatment for workers. And there's another one that I'm going to add that I don't think anybody talked about so far yet. With this system, people can outsource work, meaning, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, meaning I can send my work to get done in India and it's much cheaper over there. Now, while that benefits me, it also loses work here. I'd rather pay foreign people because they'll do it less than American people if I'm working in America. I'd rather pay Indian people because they'll do it less than Chilean people will do it for here because it's a lower cost of living there. So outsourced work means less local jobs. So it's a benefit for the company, but all the people that they would normally employ in the city where they live or where they're from are not having jobs. If I outsource my work, if I need 100 workers and I outsource it to Thailand, that means 100 people in Thailand are getting jobs, but none of the local people are getting jobs. What about for fair trade? What are the benefits of it? Hello?
The workers are treated well.
Yep, it protects workers. And that could be in their pay or treatment. I'm going to add that. In their pay or treatment. What else is a benefit from this? Edu?
Environment is protected.
Yep. Environment is protected. You have this fair trade symbol, you have to abide by certain requirements. What about the drawbacks to fair trade?
It's more expensive.
It is. What else? If it's more expensive, can everybody buy it? So what is it? What's limited? Limited how?
Not everyone can access it.
Okay, limited products to only people who can access them or afford them. So, thinking about these, can you see why people would say, oh, I'm on this side, oh, I'm on this side? Because if you're a company, you might be on one side or the other because of the cost. Or if you don't have a lot of money, you might be on one side or the other. If you have resources, you might say, I can afford to pay a little more, I want to protect these things. So that's why it's important to look at these. And we're going to be talking about how we can use these to make better decisions as consumers. Because if you are in this classroom and you can go to this school, are you somebody who can pay more to protect, or are you somebody who cannot afford it, those products? Okay, I guess it depends on where your values lie, right? Yeah, I have the money, but I use it for blank. Well, yeah, I have the money, I use it for this. So you have to decide where your values lie. Ladies and gentlemen, you may pack up, but you may not leave your seats.
I'm not.